Today we're uncovering the truth about the shampoo sitting in your shower right now. The one you grabbed without thinking. The one with the fruit on the front, or the word care, or doctor recommended. Because in 2026, 7 of the most trusted shampoo brands in America contain chemicals linked to EPA warnings, EU bans, and active federal lawsuits filed this year. Your scalp is the most absorbent surface on your body. And these formulas were designed so you'd never think to question what's going through it every single morning. Today I'm ranking all 7 from concerning to outright damning, then revealing 5 brands that are actually clean. The worst one on this list is really 2 brands. Same company, same chemical, 1 recall, a $10.2 million federal settlement. Then the exact same ingredient quietly moved into a new bottle under a new name. That case is still open in U.S. federal court this month. That story is last. Stay until the end. Number 7. Garnier Fructis, owned by L'Oreal. This is the one engineered to look like it came from a garden. The name does the work before you even flip the bottle over. Fructis, Latin for fruit. Avocado, banana, aloe, coconut, papaya. The colors, the font, the ingredient callouts splashed across the front panel. Every design decision points in one direction. Natural, plant-based, close to the earth. Now flip it over. The primary cleaning agent is sodium lauryl sulfate. That syllable in the middle, laureth, is not a design choice, it is a chemistry flag. It means this ingredient was produced through an industrial process called ethoxylation. Ethoxylation makes surfactants gentler and more water-soluble, which is why manufacturers use it. It also produces an unavoidable byproduct called 1,4-dioxane, not added deliberately, a chemical consequence of the process itself, which is precisely why it does not appear on the ingredient label. It is not technically an added ingredient. It has never been required to be disclosed. In November 2024, the EPA formally concluded that 1,4-dioxane presents an unreasonable risk to human health. California's Department of Toxic Substances Control opened formal rulemaking in 2026 targeting the specific surfactant pathways that generated in personal care products. That pathway runs directly through this bottle. The avocado on the front has not been updated to reflect either of those regulatory developments. On top of that, multiple Garnier Fructis formulas contain a preservative the European Union restricted from all rinse-off personal care products in 2016. After research linked it to skin sensitization and neurotoxic effects at low concentrations. 2 regulatory bodies in 2 separate markets have already moved against ingredients in this formula. The label still looks like a fruit bowl. Garnier sold you fruit. The manufacturing process generated a carcinogen as a byproduct. The label was designed so that gap would never be visible to the person holding it. The next brand spent 60 years building one word into the most trusted name in personal care. That word is printed on the front of the bottle. What is actually inside is a different document entirely. Number 6. Dove, owned by Unilever. This is the one every family trusts. Gentle enough for a newborn, safe for sensitive skin, dermatologist tested. For 60 years, Unilever built every product line, every ad campaign, every packaging refresh around one promise, that Dove treats your skin the way someone who genuinely cares about you would. Gentle, safe, the brand you reach for without questioning. Here is what Unilever's own litigation record says about that promise. Multiple Dove liquid shampoo lines, including Dove Nutritive Solutions and Dove Dryness Relief, contain a preservative called DMDM hydantoin. Every time DMDM hydantoin contacts water, which happens every time you lather up, it releases formaldehyde. Not a trace exposure, not a theoretical risk. A documented chemical release directly onto your scalp, the surface your body absorbs through most readily. Formaldehyde is an IARC Group 1 carcinogen, the highest classification that exists, not suspected, not probable, confirmed cause of cancer in humans. The same classification assigned to asbestos, printed on a bottle with the word care across the front. Here is the part that makes this more than just an ingredient concern. Unilever documented this mechanism in their own corporate record before it became public knowledge. In 2012, they recalled a separate product line after consumer complaints piled up. Hair loss, scalp burns, irritation, all traced back to the same preservative, the same formaldehyde-releasing process, same parent company, same documented harm. That ingredient remained in Dove's liquid shampoo formula regardless. After the recall, after the internal documentation, after the company had it in writing. Dove is also one of the largest personal care brands on earth. Unilever reports it as a multi-billion-dollar annual revenue line. The resources to reformulate exist. The corporate knowledge existed before 2012. The ingredients stayed. The primary surfactant is sodium lauryl sulfate, the same 1,4-dioxane pathway as Garnier. The fragrance sits behind the FDA's trade secret exemption, which means every chemical generating that scent is legally shielded from label disclosure. Think about the practical reality of this for a family using Dove shampoo daily, a parent washing a child's hair every morning, a teenager using it before school. The scalp is the exposure site. The formaldehyde release happens every single wash. It is not an environmental exposure or a workplace hazard. It is a personal care product used in close contact with skin on the most absorbent surface of the body, repeatedly, for years. That context is what IARC Group 1 classifications are designed to communicate risk around. Not a one-time exposure, but chronic repeated contact. Care was the brand story. DMDM hydantoin in the liquid formula was the chemistry story. Unilever made sure you only ever saw one of them. Number 5 has been carrying the authority of medicine itself for over 60 years. That phrase is printed right on the bottle. Here is exactly what it legally means and what it was structured never to cover. Number 5, Head & Shoulders, owned by Procter & Gamble. Doctor recommended for over 60 years. Read that carefully. It sounds like a clinical endorsement. Like a doctor reviewed the full formula, evaluated the ingredient list, and signed off on safety. 60 years of doctors standing behind this bottle. Doctor recommended is not a regulatory standard. There is no government threshold a formula must clear to use that phrase. There is no mandatory ingredient safety review attached to it. No dermatologist is required to evaluate what the manufacturing process generates before their name gets associated with the brand. In practice, companies survey or compensate physicians who confirm the product works for its stated purpose, dandruff control. And the phrase goes on the label. The doctors endorsed flake reduction. Nobody asked them about the manufacturing chemistry or what the EPA was evaluating. Here is what the agencies with actual legal authority over ingredient safety are saying right now. The EPA's November 2024 formal risk evaluation declared 1,4-dioxane an unreasonable risk to human health. California's DTSC opened rulemaking in 2026 targeting the surfactant pathway that generates it. That pathway runs through Head & Shoulders' primary cleaning agent, sodium lauryl sulfate. Then there is zinc pyrithione, the active antifungal compound that actually treats dandruff, the ingredient the product is built around. Zinc pyrithione is currently under regulatory review in the European Union following a 2021 restriction tied to environmental contamination and human safety concerns. The core functional ingredient is being scrutinized in markets with more rigorous standards than the United States. The fragrance is undisclosed. The phthalate content is unquantified on any label. Doctor recommended was the authority claim. The California DTSC regulatory filing is the chemistry record. Those are not the same document. Number 4 did not fabricate a credential. They earned a genuine one from one of the most respected scientific institutions on the planet. The issue is not that the credential is fake. The issue is understanding precisely what it was designed to evaluate, and what it was never asked to look at. Number 4. Herbal Essences, owned by Procter & Gamble. This is the premium-looking natural option, and the science behind it is real. Procter & Gamble built an actual partnership with the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew, London, one of the world's foremost botanical research institutions. Kew independently verified that the plant-derived ingredients in herbal essences formulas genuinely come from traceable botanical sources. When the label says rosemary, Kew confirmed the origin. When it says aloe, Kew traced the supply chain. That verification is legitimate. The scope of what Kew was asked to verify is the entire story. Kew Gardens certifies plant origin. That is the mandate they were given. They have no authority to evaluate synthetic preservative chemistry. They were never asked to screen for 1,4-dioxane manufacturing byproducts. They did not assess for formaldehyde-releasing compounds. The partnership was scoped precisely around the one component of the formula that was never the safety concern to begin with. Multiple herbal essences formulas contain DMDM hydantoin sitting alongside the Kew-certified botanicals. The rosemary is authentic. The formaldehyde donor is present. The Kew Gardens logo appears on both. The primary surfactant is sodium lauryl sulfate, the same 1,4-dioxane pathway that has appeared on every brand in this countdown so far. The fragrance chemistry is undisclosed behind the same FDA trade secret exemption used across this entire list. Picture what this looks like on a shelf. A world-class scientific institution's logo on a bottle that also contains a formaldehyde-releasing preservative and a surfactant generating an EPA-classified carcinogen as a manufacturing byproduct. Procter & Gamble built a premium natural identity around a certification scoped precisely to miss the questions that would have complicated it. The certification is real. The full safety picture it implied was not. If this video is giving you useful information, something worth knowing before your next grocery run, hitting like takes 1 second, and it helps this kind of investigation reach more people. Number 3 is the most purchased shampoo in the entire country, not one of the most popular, the most. And scale is what makes this entry different from everyone above it. Number 3. Pantene, owned by Procter & Gamble. 90 million American households daily. That is the scale at which this formula operates. And the ingredient that built Pantene's reputation is the same one that makes the chemistry concern here unique on this list. Pantene's differentiator is dimethicone, a synthetic silicone polymer deposited onto the hair shaft with every wash to create the appearance of smooth, luminous, healthy hair. It works visually. The shine is real. The softness under your fingers is real. But dimethicone is not conditioning the hair in any biological sense. It is coating it. A synthetic film that reflects light and reduces surface friction. And with daily use, that coating does not rinse away cleanly. It accumulates layer on layer, wash on wash, building progressively across the scalp surface between rinses. Here is why that accumulation matters specifically in this formula. The primary surfactant is sodium lauryl sulfate, the ethoxylation pathway generating EPA-classified 1,4-dioxane that has appeared on every brand in this countdown. That byproduct is in the finished product before you open the bottle. Now add the silicone layer. Instead of surfactant residue rinsing clean after each wash, the dimethicone film holds that residue against your scalp between showers. The most chemically absorbent surface on your body in prolonged contact with that residue every day. Compounded wash after wash across 90 million households simultaneously. The Pro V logo on every bottle is a registered Procter & Gamble trademark, a proprietary vitamin blend the company owns outright. It is not a government certification. It is not an independent safety standard. It is a brand asset designed to carry the visual weight of clinical authority without the accountability that actual clinical authority requires. The most used shampoo in America. A silicone accumulation mechanism that extends scalp exposure to EPA-flagged byproducts over time. A trademarked claim positioned to look like a medical endorsement. The label was built to generate trust. The ingredient list was never meant to be placed next to it. Number 2 is different from every brand above it. The others have an ingredient problem. This brand has a decision problem. That distinction is documented in federal court, and it matters. Number 2. OGX, owned by Johnson & Johnson Consumer Incorporated. This is the one targeted at the careful shopper, the one that looks like the responsible choice you make when you are already paying attention. Coconut milk, argan oil of Morocco, Brazilian keratin therapy, biotin and collagen, premium feeling, botanically positioned, drugstore priced, aimed precisely at the consumer who was already reading labels and trying to do better. Johnson & Johnson Consumer Incorporated is not a company that misses things. They operate one of the largest consumer health and personal care portfolios in the world. They have the scientific teams, the regulatory monitoring systems, and the legal infrastructure to track ingredient safety developments across every category they sell in. That is not an assumption. It is what a company of that scale and history does. Before 2021, every relevant piece of information about DMDM-hydantoin was publicly available to them. The peer-reviewed literature on its formaldehyde-releasing mechanism had been published. The Unilever 2012 recall was in the public record. Class action settlements in the personal care industry were documented. EU restrictions on formaldehyde-releasing preservatives were already in effect in major international markets. The signals existed. The precedent was established. The information was not hard to find for a company with their resources. In 2021, a federal class action, Whipple v. Johnson & Johnson Consumer Incorporated, Northern District of Illinois, alleged that OGX products contained DMDM hydantoin, that it released formaldehyde upon contact with water during normal use, that Johnson & Johnson had known about the risk before the products were sold, and that they had deliberately chosen not to warn consumers. The plaintiffs documented hair loss and scalp irritation from the exact bottle marketed to the parent or shopper who was already trying to make the careful choice. The coconut milk stayed on the front. The DMDM hydantoin stayed in the formula. That was not an oversight. The federal docket is where that decision lives now. Number 1 is where this investigation becomes something different, not just an ingredient concern, not just a decision that went wrong. A 14-year documented corporate behavior record, with active federal proceedings still open as of this month. Number 1. Tourism and Suave, both owned by Unilever. The story starts in 2012. Unilever recalled Suave Professional's Keratin Infusion Color Protection Shampoo after consumer reports arrived in volume. Severe hair breakage, scalp burns, significant hair loss. The cause was identified as DMDM hydantoin. The class action lawsuit that followed documented a specific and significant allegation. Unilever had marketed Suave Professionals as formaldehyde-free, while it contained a preservative whose formaldehyde-releasing mechanism was already established in peer-reviewed scientific literature at the time of sale. Formaldehyde-free on the label. Formaldehyde-releasing chemistry in the formula. The settlement totaled $10.2 million. Finalized 2014. Upheld on appeal in 2016. Federal court, public record. Now, here is where one incident becomes a documented pattern. After that settlement, Unilever did not remove DMDM hydantoin from its hair care portfolio. They kept it in. Different brand name, different price tier, different shelf position, different consumer, salon quality rather than affordable family care. Different label, different customer demographic, same parent company, same preservative, same chemical release mechanism, same documented category of harm. In 2020, a federal class action, Castillo v. Unilever United States, Northern District of Illinois, argued exactly that. That Tresemme Keratin Smooth products contained DMDM hydantoin, that formaldehyde was released during normal consumer use, that Unilever had known since at least 2012. The lawsuit cited the Suave settlement not as historical context, but as direct evidence of prior knowledge. Proof that when Tresemme customers were experiencing the same harm from the same compound, the company already had a $10 million federal settlement on file, documenting precisely what that compound did and how it behaved. Unilever reformulated Tresemme Keratin Smooth in 2022, after the lawsuit was filed, not before. The consolidated class action remained active through April 2025. Maddox v. Canopco, filed against Unilever's own subsidiary Canopco, carries active filings dated May 2026, this month, not closed. Ongoing. 2 brand names, 1 corporation, 1 recall, one $10.2 million settlement. The same chemistry placed into a new bottle with a new name and sold to a new customer who had no knowledge of what came before it. The Tresemme label said salon quality. The Suave label said affordable family care. The federal docket made no such distinction between them. That case is still open. Here is something worth keeping in perspective. The brands on this list are not fringe products. They are category leaders. They are on every major store shelf in America. The fact that they have documented issues does not mean every use causes immediate harm. It means the ingredient decisions made by the corporations that own them have not kept pace with what independent regulatory agencies and federal courts have since determined about those ingredients. The gap between the label and the reality is the problem, and that gap is closable because the alternatives exist. Now you know what to avoid. Here is the good news. These 5 brands looked at the same ingredient landscape, the same formulation options, the same cost pressures, and made entirely different decisions. No formaldehyde releasers, no SLS-based manufacturing pathways, no synthetic fragrance chemistry hidden behind trade secret exemptions. Every one of them shows up in the lower ranges of independent safety ratings. The investigation work has already been done for you. Best option number 5, Puracy Natural Shampoo. This is the clean baseline. No complexity, no conditional fine print, plant-derived and EWG-rated low hazard. No sodium lauryl sulfate, which removes the ethoxylation step entirely, which means no 1,4-dioxane manufacturing pathway. No DMDM hydantoin, no formaldehyde releasers of any kind, No synthetic fragrance exemption. Every scent ingredient is disclosed. Nothing is hidden behind a trade secret classification. Every word on the ingredient label means what it says. Available online and at select retailers. If the standard you are trying to meet is simply no formaldehyde donors and no SLES, Puracy clears it on every line. Best option number 4. Avalon Organics, EWG verified, and that word matters here in a specific way, not a certification earned once and left on a shelf indefinitely. Avalon maintains that status through periodic independent retesting. If the formula changes, the verification has to be re-earned. No SLS, no SLES, no DMDM hydantoin, no synthetic fragrance, botanical surfactant system. The difference between EWG verified and a label claim is accountability. One is ongoing, the other is a marketing decision. Avalon chose the one that requires ongoing accountability. Available at Whole Foods, Sprouts, and online. Best option number 3. Shea Moisture, the 100% virgin coconut oil line specifically. This distinction matters every time you reach for a Shea Moisture product on the shelf, because not every Shea Moisture formula shares the same formulation. The brand has expanded significantly, and different lines use different ingredient profiles. The 100% virgin coconut oil collection specifically is EWG rated low hazard, no DMDM hydantoin, no formaldehyde releasers, no SLES. It sits on the same shelf as most of the brands on the avoid list, at a comparable price point, at Target, Walmart, Walgreens, and Whole Foods. Read the line name on the front before you reach for it. That is the only step that requires any extra attention. This is the option for anyone who is not changing where they shop, just changing which bottle they pick up. Best option number 2. Briogeo. Be gentle, be kind. 6-free formula. No sulfates, no silicones, no phthalates, no parabens, no formaldehyde donors, no artificial dyes. Go back through the avoid list and match each of those 6 exclusions against what surfaced in the brands above. No sulfates means no 1,4-dioxane manufacturing pathway. No silicone means no dimethicone film building between washes to hold residue against the scalp, the specific compounding mechanism that made Pantene's concern different from the others. No phthalates means the fragrance chemistry is fully disclosed, not shielded. Every exclusion in that 6-free list corresponds to something that appeared as a documented issue in at least one brand on the avoid list. Available at Sephora, Ulta, and online. Best option number 1. Acure. EWG verified, the highest independent safety rating in the consumer personal care database. No sulfates, no parabens, no formaldehyde releasers, no synthetic fragrance. The surfactant system is cocoa glucoside and sodium cocoyl isethionate. Both coconut-derived, both manufactured without an ethoxylation step. There is no 1,4-dioxane pathway in this formula at any stage of production. The cleaning agents do not generate a carcinogen byproduct. That fact is on the label, because there is genuinely nothing to hide from it. Available at Target, Whole Foods, and online, at a price point that does not require treating clean ingredients as a premium category. This is the formula that answers every question raised in this investigation. EWG verified, independently retested, and on a mainstream shelf without a specialty markup. If you found a brand on that avoid list that is currently in your shower, or you are sharing this with someone who has one, now you have 5 specific alternatives with nowhere to hide on their ingredient panels. If this has been useful, drop a like. It takes a second, and it helps this research reach more people who are still using the brands at the top of this list. 2 tests tonight. Your bathroom, 2 minutes. Test 1, the lather test. Take half a teaspoon of your shampoo and add it to a glass of cold tap water. 1 slow stir. Watch for 30 seconds. Dense white foam that immediately blankets the entire surface and holds its structure. That is an SLS or SLES-based formula. The ethoxylation process used to produce that surfactant generated 1,4-dioxane as a manufacturing consequence. Independent laboratory testing has confirmed that 1,4-dioxane migrates from the surfactant into the finished product. You cannot see it in the foam. It was in the bottle before you ever opened it. Soft, smaller bubbles that form slowly and dissolve without covering the surface. That is a coconut-derived or amino acid surfactant system. No ethoxylation step. No 1,4-dioxane pathway. That is what a clean lather looks like in a glass of water. Test 2. The 5-term label scan. Pick up your shampoo and read the back panel. Look for any of these 5 terms. DMDM hydantoin, sodium lauryl sulfate, the word fragrance or parfum without the words phthalate-free appearing anywhere else on the label. Methyl isothiazolinone, any compound followed by a number. Find 2 out of 5, and you have identified something the label design was specifically built to keep from being obvious. Then search your exact product name in the EWG Skin Deep database. 1 through 3 is low concern, 4 through 6 is moderate, 7 through 10, put it down. Every brand on the avoid list scores in that upper range. Every brand on the best list does not. 7 brands. 1 formaldehyde-releasing preservative documented in federal court filings since 2012. An EPA-classified carcinogen produced as a manufacturing byproduct, absorbed through your scalp each morning, absent from every label, never legally required to appear. Active federal litigation with filings dated this month. 5 brands that reviewed the same options and chose not to put any of it in the bottle. This is Scam Uncovered, and the label is in your hand. It was written to protect the brand, not the person holding it. If this changed which bottle you reach for tomorrow, pass it to one person still using one of the 7. If there is a bottle of Trisem, Suave or Dove in someone's shower tonight, send this to them right now. Drop a comment with the brand you checked and what you found. This is your bathroom. You deserve to know exactly what is in it, and now, finally you do.